welcome back to the much delayed next episode, episode 69 of the Iron Man WoW Challenge, with me, Sheppo. So if you remember, in the last episode we'd just gotten into Nagrand. Literally we'd just flown here and that was the end of the last episode. So we're starting out here, and it's always kind of interesting starting out in a new zone, because you're trying to figure out where you actually start, where you can pick quests up and actually get going and, you know, killing hundreds of mobs, as it usually turns out. So we're here at Garadar, which will be our quest hub as Horde, and they don't even like us. We've just rocked up into town and they're like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? So we can't even check in at the innkeeper, which is pretty bad, so we're having to half at Shatrath for the time being until we can actually get some reputation up. And I'm just picking up what quests we have and trying to figure out what we're going to do, basically. That's what the map's looking like so far. We've got that quest right down in the south, which is, well, I haven't spotted that yet, but that's where we're going to head off to first. There's an old orc base down there which has been overrun by ogres. And of course we've got the Nesingwary line of quests, which, yeah, I'll probably talk more about Nesingwary later, because it's an interesting kind of paradox with those quests. And normally just over there should be some of the quests as well, but there don't seem to be any there at the minute. So I think we're probably just half. Actually our half is still set in Terracar, and then we're going to fly over there and get on with that, basically. Here we are, so we're almost there now. So like I say, it has been a little while since we had the last episode uploaded, and there's been a couple of good reasons for that, and it's not just Guild Wars 2. Some of you are probably thinking, it's Guild Wars 2. It's not. You may have seen in the previous video, I actually had a cold which has knocked me out for a good few days. I've not really been playing any games at all for that time, and certainly not sat in front of the PC longer than I needed to, editing videos together, which is a bit of a shame. In terms of, like, with my channel, you might have noticed a couple of odd little things going on. So I started to get the permission to add thumbnails to all of my videos, and I've went through diligently and started adding them in for the last, so like 5 or so in the current series that I'd got running. And actually what happened with the Guild Wars 2 videos was that I got quite a lot of views on some of them, but for me, for my standards, quite a lot, obviously not by a major channel's standards. And I actually applied for partnering with RPM Networks and Social Blade, and I was accepted, which is excellent news. I'm still waiting for that to happen. It takes a little while, a couple of weeks for that to actually go through. Whilst that's been going on, I've also had a request to sign up to another gaming channel to be a director. Thankfully it's not Machinima. And also on a YouTube front, YouTube have taken away my right to monetize, which is kind of good timing, because once I get the RPM/social network partner sorted out, it won't be an issue. But it's been quite frustrating, because I've been trying to be legit, as it were, only claiming for monetization on videos that I know I actually have the right to monetize on. Which isn't many, but it is World of Warcraft, because Blizzard specifically do in there, they have a policy basically for which sets out what you can and can't do with video content. And Blizzard are very good. They're one of the few companies, I think Mojang is the other that I can think of off the top of my head, that specifically allow you to monetize their content. So you can claim, you know, 50 pence off a couple of views. It's not a lot of money, but it's a nice little incentive to kind of try and get you to be more proactive with your channel. And yeah, they took that away from me, because they said I was claiming monetization too often on things that I didn't have the right to claim monetization on, which is completely false. And it's a bit of a shame, because there's no recourse against that decision. You can't do anything against it. So it's a little bit of a shame. But hopefully the RPM social network thing is going to sort itself out soon. I can get the video thumbnails back, because I kind of like that. It's kind of cool, and we can get some of the other partnership benefits going as well, which would be nice. Just in time, hopefully, for Mr. Pandaria, which is but a few days away now. I'm getting pretty excited about it, and I'm hoping you are too. So what we're going to be doing for Mr. Pandaria, I'll probably put out a video just before MOP to explain what my plans are for that. I'm not sure how it's going to align with what everybody else is going to be doing, because it's going to be very much a gold rush for YouTube channels globally. Everybody's going to be jumping on the bandwagon and trying to do stuff and get a lot of views. Thinking back, and the reason for that, if you think back to when Cataclysm came out, when Cataclysm was in beta, there were a couple of small channels that just hit it really big. So, for example, Blues F-Offs and Total Biscuit, off the back, I think, they may disagree, but off the back of that, I think that those guys hit it big time, and there'll be lots of channels hoping to make a similar jump. I'm not necessarily one of those guys. I just like making videos, and you know, if you guys like it too, that's cool, but I'm not hoping to make a living out of this at the minute. I have a full-time job which pays rather nicely, thank you. But having said that, I do want to push my channel forward and do stuff and get more views and get more subscribers and stuff, because it's a good little, it's like a little game. It becomes a meta game once you start getting into YouTube. And that's, I guess that sounds quite sad, but that's just the way of things really. It does become like that. And the channel is doing relatively well. So yes, maybe I'll put out a little video just before MOP to explain what my plans are. And hopefully, because I know how these things work out, I've seen a lot of other people do it, and say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, this is my schedule, I'm going to start doing a video a day or a video for a couple of days, and then they just never stick to it. So I'm going to be quite realistic about what my plans are with that. I think it's good to let you guys know what's happening, because I know this series in particular has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit because of Guild Wars 2, maybe. I'm sorry if that's the case and you've enjoyed watching this series. We are, however, very nearly done. I don't want to spoil the surprise, although it's probably not a surprise at this point. But I do die at some point in the next zone. I'm not going to tell you when it is. I'm not going to explain now what level we get to or when it is, because I think... And it was my fault this time, so yeah. Okay, the other thing I'm hoping to put out before MOP is it's my first machinima, and not for the channel machinima, but kind of a little WoW video. It's a music video in which I sing, which is terrible, and it's something that nobody asked for, so I'll, you know, if everybody rebels against that and unsubscribes, I'll perfectly understand that. But it's a fun little video. I've had a lot of fun making it with Garthis, my brother. So hoping to get that out in the next day or two. Hopefully it doesn't get copyright flagged. But it's pretty fucking awesome so far, I have to say. I'm not usually one to blow my own trumpet with these things, but it's a pretty good video to celebrate the release of MOP, that is. So I'm hoping you all will enjoy that and spread it around when you see it. Okay, right, so let's that's enough waffling, I think, for now. I think at this point in the challenge it's probably not, it's not really something I can talk about from a, you know, how to be more effective at doing these things, because, well, two reasons. This was filmed on 4.3. We're now a couple of weeks into 5.0.4, is it? So all the talents and everything is completely changed, so anything you can pick up from this video is kind of irrelevant and will make no sense. So some of the abilities that we've got you no longer have in the game. One of the things I thought maybe would be relaxed for 5.4 and Mr. Pandaria, excuse me, is that you would be allowed to pick a spec. That doesn't appear to be the case. I've just checked the official Iron Man forums and they're still saying you have to run it without a spec. But it's not all bad news, because by default your pet has a spec and you can't unspec out of that, so you are allowed to run with a pet spec, which makes it interesting. I'm not sure what pet I would bring. We no longer have the agility and strength buff in the game that we get with cats, so that does make it a little bit... I don't know what I'd pick. Probably a wolf or a raptor, or look at which pets, because there are some non-exotic pets that bring a multitude of buffs. So I think the raptor brings more than one now, I can't remember, I'm not exactly sure. But anything that brings crit, it's probably going to be your best shout. But then again, it's only 5%, so I've not really looked at that. Maybe if we hop back on the Iron Man challenge in Mr. Pandaria, we will look more closely at that. But it's kind of good news that you can pick a spec for your pet, because you can't not do that. So that does give you a bit of leeway, and obviously there are some abilities that your pet will bring because of that spec that it's running with. The other change that is quite interesting, and up until a few weeks ago I wasn't aware of this, but the fact that pets... Well, we lost the kill command ability because that's run into the Beastmaster spec, which we can't pick. And I always figured that holding aggro would be a massive problem. But of course now Growl has completely changed. Any hunter that has logged into the game since 5.04 and done any kind of PvE content will know this. Growl no longer just generates a bit of threat, it is actually a full taunt. So that's quite good, because if ever you get aggro, you can just macro in a command to hit Growl. It doesn't always run every single time it's off cooldown if you just leave the game to do it when it thinks it's okay to do it. But if you were to macro that in, that should help, really help, I think, to just take all aggro back off you. I've not tried it, but I think it'll probably be better. Maybe running with a pet that has a AoE attack, which will by default generate some kind of aggro, would be useful as well. Because we don't get the strength and agility, but we do get crit. Now crit I don't think is going to be massively useful. It's going to give us a bit of extra damage, but we're not going to get abilities that are procced off of the crit. So a mastery is no point, so maybe just going for utility, bringing a pet that you spec into tenacity, because obviously you can change spec of your pet as well. Put it into tanking spec, something that's going to maybe have more utility for you. So for example, you can actually spec your wolf. Let's say you're running with a wolf, you could spec that into tanking spec, tenacity, and that would get Thunderstomp, which sounds a little bit silly. Thunderstomp is an AoE, does a bit of damage, it does more threat than a standard attack. So if you think about, maybe you're going into an area where there are a lot of mobs tightly packed together, you're thinking you're going to pull a lot of aggro, well, swap to that spec. That would help. You also get additional healing done to your pet if you use that spec, so I think that's quite good. I was initially very upset about some of the changes they're bringing into hunters from an Iron Man point of view only, and but it actually seems like it might be okay and perfectly feasible to get done in Mr. Pandaria. So like I say, we may come back to that challenge later on once we've got the whole levelling and raiding aspect of the expansion out of the way. I think we'll definitely come back to it, because you know, at some point I'd like to hit that magical, well, it'd be level 90 I guess. I'd like to be able to do that, and I think I can do it. Okay, now we're on the Nesingwary quests, and as I mentioned earlier, these are a bit of a paradox, because on one hand, everybody loves Nesingwary and all of his quests. I don't know why, because on the other hand, all it is killing multiple animals over and over again, which is really, really dull. So I don't quite understand why people like them. There was no Nezzuari quests, for example, in Cataclysm. We've had them in every expansion other than that. So we've had them in Vanilla, which is Strength on the Wheel. We've had them in TBC, nagrand is where we are now. We've had them in Wrath in Sholazar Basin, and I believe he's coming back from Mr. Pandaria, but I don't know what zone he's in. I'm actually pretty clueless about all of the levelling content for Mr. Pandaria, because I didn't want to spoil that kind of excitement of doing it in the beta, so I've not done any other than maybe the first 10 quests or so, which are pretty, you know, pretty standard stuff for WoW, pretty crap compared to Guild Wars 2. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, despite what I just said about Nezzuari, they are decent quests because they give you some kind of level of progression and killing stuff. I guess the other good thing about them is if you're in a group, you can just absolutely storm through these quests. It's ridiculous how quickly you can get through because you can share the kills. There's no pickups and everybody hates quest drops and stuff like that. So this is actually not too bad. And we're going to get a lot of XP from doing these as well, which is pretty good. We like XP. Okay, I'm gonna try and edit a lot of the stuff out that we've got in the remaining footage. So I think at this point we've got these Nezzuari quests. I'm just gonna finish them off. There's no challenge here. These are just, they're not even red. They're like yellow mobs to us, so that's absolutely nothing. So I'll leave that episode there. If you've got any questions or concerns about MOP or anything like that, put them in the comment field below as usual, and I shall see you next time for episode 70 of the Iron Man Challenge. We still do have quite a lot to go, so hopefully we can get through that pretty quick, and I shall see you next time.